Hey guys, welcome to another episode of The Aspiring Entrepreneur. I'm your host, Hamza Chowdhury. It is Monday, April 5th. I hope you guys all had a wonderful long weekend with Easter. You reset and recharged. I think this market's taught us a lot of different things, and we know for one that stocks can go a lot lower than we expect them to and make new lows like we saw with AI. And so I hope you guys enjoyed this green day. We had several good catalysts, especially with the job report being a lot better than expected. And of course, some of our stock catalysts also were really strong with like Tesla, the deliveries. And so definitely want to get right into it. And so in this video, we're going to cover Apple, Tesla, Palantir, Clover Health, Spce, and AI. In return, I just ask you, if you do enjoy this video, do please hit the like and subscribe button to this channel. As always, guys, we're a 100% free content channel, and I rely on those likes to know that I'm giving out some good content for you guys that you enjoy. And if there's anything that I can help you out with, definitely post it below. I do read all the comments, and I do also post as well. And so for Apple, I thought it was probably the strongest stock that we cover. It bounced off our 123 resistance line, and you can see, like I mentioned in previous videos, I'm not going to necessarily just change this to a green line. Although we validated it as a support today, you can see that we broke the 123 support line that we've had, and then we also broke the resistance, and also the 125. And you can see we actually had this pivot here where we validated the 125 and broke that too. Okay, and so you can see that Apple had a really strong day. It had a low of 123 and a high of 126, and it was just an awesome bounce like we expected on our last video, that we expected it to break as it was essentially consolidating around the level. And so it was great news for Apple longs that, we had the bounce off the 123. And so you can see here, as we have mentioned in the past, if I take this line out, this is the top that I was concerned about, was this guy right here. Okay, it's right where we're trading, is where's this top, and what we want to see is a breakout. Okay, and so we had this higher low here from last week, but what we want to see is a higher high. And so what we have here is essentially a 127.50 top that we want to break out, and it just happens that the 50-day moving average is right under 128, and it would give us that breakout. So don't be surprised if you see a test of that 50-day. But ideally, when you're on a bullish stock, you're trading above this 50-day average, and you can see that it's completely shifted into the downward direction. Okay, and so I expect it to act as resistance initially. And so what we can see is, now that we're trading on the upper half of the Bollinger Band, right, we're on the bullish side, but we need to get over this 50-day and close above the 50. Okay, and so once we can break this top that we've had in Apple of 127.50, I can really see this thing getting back to 130. And then of course we can start looking at all-time highs. Now you can see clearly we have a channel that has been created, and so we're essentially consolidating sideways. And so really this stock can go any direction, but as I mentioned in the past, I would be risking, either to the 200-day right here around 119, or I'd risk as low as potentially the anchored VWAP if you're right here around 115. Okay, so these are the two areas I would risk if I was going long. And then of course, like I said, you wouldn't want to hold anything that's going below the anchored VWAP at that point. Okay, so again, great day and solid. It traded above the SMA line, and it was super solid and good for all the Apple longs out there. Tesla, no different. Beat the numbers, and you can see it completely had this major gap up, guys. I mean, this is like a $40 gap up here from 660 all the way up here to 700, and then it kept continuing, and then it sort of faded off. And so when we had this fade off, I wasn't surprised. Where did we hit? We're going to hit our key levels, which is what, 695. And so we've identified 695 as a solid resistant line. We had that on Thursday, and we essentially consolidated around that level, and we broke through it, retested the highs a little over 700. And so guys, like in the past, same thing as Apple, we have a clear top here. So if I go ahead and hide these lines, try to clean this up for you a little bit. So same thing here. Let me go ahead and delete that. Right here is we have this top here in Tesla, right? So it's around the 710, 715, 720. And same thing, as you can see, the 50 days up here. And I've been mentioning that we're now also doing a similar thing as we're trading in this channel and Tesla, and we're on the bullish side. So you can see a lot of these stocks are sort of following the similar patterns like Apple. And so what I expect is that, Tesla is going to, same thing. It's going to test this 50-day up here. It has now, according to Wedbush, another $1,000 price target, which has been our price target on this channel for quite some time. And so again, we want to see, we saw the higher low back here from this 530, we saw a higher low here around 590, and what we want to see is a higher high. So we want to see a breakthrough of the 720 level up to 775, and that's what I mentioned was sort of my near term price target on Tesla. And so you can see we've sort of been, you know, selling off. We had this correction of about 30-40%, and now we're sort of rebounding and bouncing, and now we're in this sort of consolidation channel, which I expected. But like I said, I want to start seeing a higher high, and then we can break through. And again, $1,000 seems like it's very common. A lot of these price analysts are targeting with Tesla, and so it held pretty well. I mean, technically, we did close above or below 695, so we'll keep that as a resistance line, which we have. You know, but 660 is most likely now back to being a support. Okay, we validated that. So we're going to keep the 695 as a resistance, but we can also change the 660 level, and we can go ahead and convert that back into a support, and that's going to be, you know, great moving forward. Okay, so you know exactly where the stock's going to head. Okay, so I expect tomorrow that we'll break out of this, and we should see something above 720. Okay, and so with Palantir, also, you know, for the most part, try to hold its levels. It always tends to fail and fade as soon as it gaps up. And same thing, it gapped up to around the 24 level in the morning. It gapped up as high as 24.50, and then it sort of sold off. And so we still have this 23.50 resistance line. We did close right below it, so we're going to keep that as a solid resistance at 23.50. And you know, same thing with Palantir, guys. It's just been a lot of weakness in the stock. You can see here too, similar ideas. We're trading in this channel in the Bollinger Band. A lot of people are very bearish on the stock. You can see that there's these sort of, if you look over here, you can see the sort of lows that are being created, right? So you have the sort of channel of lows, new lows that are coming into the stock, okay? And so you can see that we're breaking every time we sort of retrace, like here a couple weeks ago at 27.50, we didn't quite get up into the 30. And so we're making sort of lower highs, but we have this solid base here around $21, $22. And so I'm not really necessarily worried about the stock long term and short term. You know, we're just gonna be bouncing around like we did previously before we had that breakout. And so if I were you, if I was Palantir long, just stay patient and just wait for it. You know, we have demo day coming up in less than 2 weeks, and so we should hear some exciting things coming up with the company. And so, you know, just stay patient and know that, you know, once we get above the 50 here at 20, I think it's 25.50, you know, we'll be back up here in the 30. I still see this gap fill here in 31.44. A lot of people are saying this thing's going to die down, but I just think there's just too many people. The lower this thing goes, there's going to be so many buyers that just buying this thing up. Okay, they just got another $90 million contract for 5 years today. And so that's all Palantir is doing, is just locking up more and more contracts. And so our goal as shareholders is ultimately to see them become profitable, which I think they will. I don't think that's an issue at all, even though they're selling stocks and whatnot. It's a 17-year-old company, it's well developed, and it's only growing. Okay, so just stay tight there. And like I said, you can see 24 has clearly been giving it some issues here the past few days, but I don't see any issues. I think we'll be just fine. Clover Health, you know, it's probably been the weaker stock. I mentioned last week that it's been downtrending too. And so you can see here that we had this bounce here, and we've been using the 20-day as resistance. And now you can see the 20 days over here around our 815 resistance line. And so same thing, it's created a channel. It's been consolidating on the bearish side. And we just need an article, guys. We need some type of catalyst. A lot of times, you know, these stocks just don't move on their own. If the volume is low, you know, comparative volume, for example, today, look how low it is compared to where it was when the short seller report came out. And so the problem with a lot of these stocks, there's just no news on them. So there's no reason that they would go up. The stocks aren't just going to go up without some type of news catalyst. And so what I'm really wondering is how they're going to respond to the short seller report. We know the SEC is investigating them, but you know, the game plan's still the same, guys, that we're going to sell at this push to the 50-day. You can see the 200-day just came out for the stock up here at 11. So the stock is way bearish down here. It's been oversold for quite some time. We've shown some positive momentum, but not a whole lot. And so I'm still holding on to shares, expecting this to get right back up here, closer to 1050. But you can clearly see here that there's been some tops here at 780, and then we had a previous resistance here at 815. Okay, so that was our primary resistance line at 815, which was a strong support previously. And we've had a solid bounce at $7. But again, here's a stock that hit 8 in pre-market, and then it really just sells off, and there's really no volume. Okay, so today's volume, for example, is 3 million shares. So it's not highly liquid. It's not a stock that you could really get in and out. Okay, Spce. This is a stock I did trade today. It was sold off, and we mentioned 31 as a resistance, but realistically, I also talked about last week that $30 identified itself as a support and resistance line, and that's no different than today. Okay, and so you can imagine here's a 15-minute chart. You can see in the first 15 minutes, look what happened. The bottom of this, the low was $30.18, and you can see that this $30 level has been bouncing good support the last few days, and then on that first 15 minutes it actually failed. And so once it failed, I was looking at the next level, and so I started getting involved here in the low 29s, and then it actually failed all the way as low. It almost bounced on our 2850. It didn't get quite that low, but it got down to what was the low today? 2878. Okay, so we had the solid support at 2850, didn't quite get there, and then we retraced some of that loss. But you can see here that this support at 30 is now going to potentially act as resistance tomorrow. And so if you're trading the stock, day trading the stock, don't be surprised tomorrow if you see a quick sort of gap up into the 30, 20, 30, 50 level, and then see it fade from there. And then for us to essentially revalidate 2850. So if I do trade the stock tomorrow, that's what I'll be looking for, is I'll be looking to make an entry at 2850 for a long, and I'll be looking to short anything up in here in the $30, $25, $30.50. Now, if it's a slow sort of grind up, I'm not going to be shorting it. If it's a quick sort of move up and it fails, and then it retests and fails again, I will be shorting it there. But again, guys, it's really consolidating in a tight range, and so right off the open, you can see that 31 didn't even hold up. Okay, so we've had 3 consecutive sessions where $31 clearly doesn't hold up, so we're going to keep that as a resistance line. And like I said, I want to keep the 2850 as a clear support line for the stock. And so hopefully you guys got that move. It was a pretty nice move, but it's also same thing. This one actually trades a lot more volume, but it just failed as well. The stock market was up today. Okay, and so that's always a concern when you have a stock that is trading negative 3 or 4% when the whole market pretty much was up today. And AI was also a disappointment. I was really surprised, actually. I thought that this stock was actually showing some life. You can see we got up here into the 72s. You can see that we had a bottom here at $60. And we've been pretty much positive pretty much every day. And then today we started up positive, and then we just failed. And then we failed and held this level here around 68. And so same idea is that you can use a 20-day as a resistance line, okay, which is about 75. And then you can see that we've bounced off the bottom part of this Bollinger Band, and same thing here is we're entering a channel. And so once we get over this 20-day and we get onto this side, we get onto the bullish side, we're still technically bearish because we're trading under the 50-day, which is also pointing downward. Okay, and so you can see we barely have some positive momentum in the stock. We're still on the oversold side of the RSI. And so just, it's one of those stocks, same thing. There's just no catalyst on a lot of these stocks. And so here's a stock that IPO'd back here in the 90s and went all the way up to 180. And I mentioned, after earnings that I could see this thing filling in back here at 110. And then essentially we just faded off back to the Bollinger Band. Okay, and that's where you want to risk is this low here at $59. Okay. And so, same thing tomorrow is I expect us to get back to the 20-day. What we want to do is get onto this side. Okay, and we want to see a bullish engulfing candle, which we haven't really seen here. Okay, even this right here, there hasn't really been much of an engulfing candle to show us that the stock is reversed, because what happened here is we're making a lower high, right? And so now that we have a low here, what we want to see is a bounce off of the 20-day and then a higher low potentially here, in the low 60s, and then of course a continuation of a higher high, which would be something like in the 90s. Okay, so we want to see a reversal here. Okay, and so it's an interesting stock. Like I mentioned before, it's algo trade this thing like crazy. This thing will have like 40-50 cents spread, so it's hard to to trade the stock when you have a 40-50 cent spread. But with that said, guys, I mean, good day for the market. It was green day, and hopefully you guys found that it was a good day for yourself as well. And so with that said, guys, as always, if you have any questions or comments, do post them below, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye bye.